All right, welcome back to the Battle Buddies podcast, where we believe that you should not take on the world alone. I am once again joined by Adam. Hi, Adam. Good to have you back.
Hello. I'm finally back.
Sorry you missed your second guest episode in a row.
One of these days, I'm finally gonna get to be on for a guest episode.
Yeah, it was very sad. We definitely missed you.
Indeed. I remember.
Sorry. I just gave him a dead stare. I'm just being rude. That's all. Don't worry about me.
Yeah, I remember looking forward to the first guest episode with now Wrenchy Matt, and I missed that one. And then I was looking for it. I was like, oh, it's okay. I'll go to the second one. And then I missed that one too. And I was like, no. But
I know.
It's okay. We'll get to the third one. And
we'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there. Okay, so today's plan of action is we're going to be talking about how to survive a violent encounter using the SPEAR method. The SPEAR method is a method used in the system called SPEAR by Tony Blauer, who is the forerunner of SPEAR, and we've had the privilege of working with him and his constituents on multiple occasions. Adam, you were able to take a full seminar going over just the SPEAR system. Would you like to walk us through any of that just right off the bat?
Yeah, so it was a really interesting seminar because I've been training in martial arts for almost 10 years now. And during that whole time that I've been training, I've had the same sort of perspective on self-defense that many other people have, which is in order to defend yourself, you need to have some sort of martial arts training. Like, you need it. It's required. If you don't have any martial arts training, then there's no way you're going to be able to survive a violent encounter, right? And what the SPEAR system does is it's a way of empowering people in a way, almost like kind of showing them that, hey, even though you would be better off with martial arts training, like, don't get me wrong, martial arts training is super important. It's not 100% needed. There are still ways that you can survive violent encounters without martial arts training, and they went over several different principles that you should keep in mind, and they basically said, here are things that you should know in order to survive a violent encounter. And one of the things that they talked about was our body's biologically built-in defense mechanisms, and then also how to mitigate violence psychologically, and once the attack starts, how do you handle the situation from there? So it was kind of split up in all these different sections.
What would you say was the biggest revelation for you, or was that that you don't necessarily need martial arts to survive per se?
Yeah,
that was the big one.
Yeah, I'd say definitely that was it right there, because there's also truth to the fact that you can survive a violent encounter out of sheer indignation, more so than.
How do you mean by that?
And I say that phrase specifically because that is literally what they told us. They said you can survive a violent encounter sheerly out of willpower, and sheerly out of wanting to. I shouldn't say wanting because that's almost weak, but surely out of being so determined to survive this because you know that you want to get home to your family, or you want to get home to your friends. Like, you want to be able to see those people again.
Yeah.
And it's because of that incredible willpower that you almost summon this power out of you to wreck this person, whoever's trying to hurt you. Right. It got like a little emotional at times, which I didn't expect for going into a self-defense seminar.
Yeah.
You expect to be like hitting stuff and hardcoreness, but no, it got really emotional at some points.
How do you mean emotional?
Just when the person who was leading the seminar, she told some stories of people who didn't survive violent encounters, and also people that she knew that didn't survive violent encounters, and how much that impacted her life. But she also told of how after she encountered the SPEAR system, when she started educating her students with it, how much it changed her students' abilities to defend themselves. Yeah. So when I say emotional, I just mean during those times when she talked about the people who didn't survive the violent encounters, or
Yeah.
not necessarily didn't survive, but were just very badly hurt.
Okay.
It got a little emotional at
I
those
see.
points. Yeah.
So for those people, not everyone I assume has a full attention span for the half hour, 45, or maybe an hour that we're going to spend here. What would you say is the hook, the main takeaway that people will get out of today, whether they're martial artists or not?
Yeah. So there are two main components of a violent encounter. And this is something I kind of observed on my own based off information I got at the seminar, which is there's the setting where it takes place, and then there's the attack itself. And then you could pretty much say that there's kind of a third mini component, which is the response. How do you as an individual respond to this attack? But we're going to talk about the attack and response together as if they were one thing. So that's why I said that.
So for people tuning in, the main thing they get out of it, could you sort of describe that? Is it knowledge? Why should people stick around for the next?
I see what you're asking now. It's knowledge. That's what it is, and that's what a lot of the seminar was.
What kind of knowledge?
Was knowledge that you have power that you don't know you have, and I think Matt said it in his episode where he said martial arts is a vehicle for self-discovery. That's what the seminar was about. Was you have power that you don't know you have. So let's show you what you can do. Some very basic things, some very small basic things that you can do to be ready for an attack, but also to make yourself less of a target for this attack. So that's what a lot of the seminar was making sure that you're not even a target in the first place.
I see.
And then from there, we went on and worked on, okay, now if you do become a target, here's what you do. And so it was knowledge in how to not become a target, and then knowledge on how to handle when you are the target.
I see. So you said setting what happens in the beginning. Break us into the setting, I suppose.
Yeah, so setting is just where it takes place, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe it's at the ATM at 8 p.m. at night. You just need to get some cash before you go home. Right? Maybe it's in the alleyways of some city that you're visiting. Maybe you're pulling into the driveway. You walk up to the entrance of your house and you notice that the door's a little bit open, and you walk inside and something doesn't feel right. Whatever it is, the setting could be anywhere, right?
I see.
And what we're going to cover in these next few minutes here is what are some things that we just need to kind of be aware of in day-to-day life to help mitigate us being a target.
Yeah. Especially because the setting, it's not as though you walk in and you necessarily know, oh, this is the setting. The setting can be anything, right? Mm-hmm. If I knew that I was about to get jumped when I walked to the ATM, I suppose, then I would be much more ready. But the fact is, anything could be a setting. Pretty much anywhere could be the setting. And forgive me if I'm wrong or if I'm getting ahead, because I know you're much more educated in this than I am, but I'd also say that the setting also has to do with the people around and, what's going on in your environment and things like that. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely, yeah. The setting includes where you are, who's around, and what is around too. Because the objects that are around you are going to affect the fight. And when we train Krav, typically, at least at our school, when we train Krav, what we do. Whether it's a choke or a bear hug, after we escape, we always get the A-frame. That's what we train, is we get the A-frame. But we always tell our students that we train that because that's the ideal. But that's not necessarily what's always going to happen. So we always need to train for what if that doesn't happen, right? Because whatever happens in this attack, whatever happens in this violent encounter is going to be directed by the setting and also what your attacker does.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
How your attacker responds and the setting are going to affect the outcome of this violent encounter, right? And I need to be hyper aware of my setting so that I can better survive this attack. So what I'm going to get into next is what we were talking about before, which is making sure that you are not the target in the first place. And something that I want to touch on real quick is the best way to win a fight is to not be in one.
Yeah.
And this is what I tell our younger students all the time, is because, they come in here, they want to learn martial arts, they want to be tough, they want to be able to beat people up. And it's like, whoa there, Tiger. Like, I'm glad you have enthusiasm about this. But remember, best way to win a fight is to not be in
That's
one.
a Mr. Miyagi saying, right? Best defense is no be there.
Exactly.
Best defense is no be there. Don't be there in the first place. I just threw one quote, and I'm going to throw another one. You ready? Here we go. There's a great show called Arcane, and in it, one of the lead, I suppose, father figures, he says, no one wins in war. And that has to do with combat, too, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Because whether I get into a combative situation where I don't know what to do and I get somewhere where I shouldn't be, and now I get my teeth knocked in, or I get my head bashed against the concrete and get a concussion or whatever, right? Or much worse, that's a lose for me. But at the same time, if I take this guy and I beat the garbage out of him, that's still a loss for me, because that might be something that I hold with me for the rest of my life. And a memory is hard to get out of your system once it's burned in there. And so even something like that, whether you win or lose, you lose.
Absolutely.
Best place, don't be there. If at all possible, don't stay there. Go do something else. It will be more worth your time.
Yeah, and that's literally one of the ways that I was going to cover on how to not be a target, which is leaving dangerous areas. If you're in an area and you kind of get that feeling of, this doesn't feel like the best area to be in.
This is my hangout.
Right? Yeah. Don't be there, right? You've talked about LOC before, LOC, being areas that are lit, open, and crowded. If you ever get attacked or you ever feel like you're in an area that's not safe, then let's talk about an area that you do want to go to.
I totally forgot about LOC, dude.
Yeah. Just remember LOC, LOC, lit, open, and crowded.
Yeah.
Why lit?
Crowded with the right people.
Yeah, exactly. Why lit? Well, because there's light and you'll be able to see. Why open? Because you'll have lots of area to move around. And crowded because there will be other people there that can help you out. Right? And then the other thing I wanted to talk about was using common sense. And this is something that they really they talked about a lot at the seminar. And what they told us is your feeling of uneasiness is good self-defense.
Yeah.
That alone is good self-defense, because it's been biologically built into you. And therefore, when you just get that feeling of something doesn't feel right, like something feels off or something feels dangerous or any sort of thing like that, that is your body's cue to you that, okay, I need to be aware of what's going on. Or maybe that's your body's cue to tell you, I need to get out of here, right? That is you. That's how you know that, all right, I need to be on edge, know who's around me, what's around me, and probably that means I should leave.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, we tell the kids all the time, listen to your body, which sounds so dumb until you think about it. Listen to your body is just, when it tells you something, it usually does it for a reason. Now, it might not always be a good reason. When your stomach says, I'm hungry, sometimes it's just saying that because it's cyclical, and maybe I need to eat. Maybe I don't have to right at the moment. Mm-hmm. Sometimes your body sends you false signals. It's true. But regardless of whether your body sends you a false signal or not, it should be addressed. It should be addressed, and maybe it should be ignored, or maybe it should be dealt with. As in, if my body is telling me I'm getting nervous because of where I am, because there are a bunch of people looking at me funny, maybe I go, this is my time to get the heck out of here. Maybe this is my time to leave.
And that's what they told us at the seminar, is don't ignore those signals.
Yeah,
right?
Don't ignore them.
When you get that, I mean, I don't want to keep using the same phrase over and over again, but I don't know any other way to describe it other than the feeling of uneasiness, right? The feeling of fright, I guess you could call it, but it's not necessarily fear. It's more like uneasiness, right? That's the only way I can think to put it. And when you feel that, that's that signal to make sure that you're ready to fight or you're ready to run. And in the end, if you do leave and there was no attack, it's not that big of a sacrifice for your safety, right? 'Cause if you try to think about it logically, like if you get that frightful, uneasy feeling and you're like, well, maybe I'm just feeling this way because it's dark or whatever, like if you are getting this, listen to it. Like, don't try to think through it, right? Don't try to like logic your way out of it because maybe your body's right? And if you're wrong, then whatever, you're wrong.
Yeah.
But
what do you have to lose?
Yeah. But if you're right, then you're going to be pretty glad that you're right.
Yeah,
right?
That's fair. I think another big part of the whole don't be there is how you hold yourself too. And this is, I guess, a little bit off topic, but if I am to keep myself from being victimized, I need to not look like a victim.
Absolutely.
As in, I need to make myself not look like someone who is easily victimized. And I talk about this with the young kids. I talk about this with the CROV students, the adults. I'll tell them, stand up straight when you go walking, pull your shoulders back, right? Don't hunch over, because what that shows is I'm afraid of everything around me. And for goodness sake, please look ahead and look around, because the people who look down, right, at the ground, they don't even see someone coming up. And if you've got your earphones in, your earbuds, whatever, then I'm going to come over and smack you, because you need to be aware, right? You need to be aware. I've heard way too many instances of people on their phones getting their phones just taken from them right out of their hands because they didn't see the person coming, or they had earbuds in so they didn't hear someone coming up and punch them, or quite frankly, right, they didn't hear the car coming. Pokemon Go, when it first dropped, there were several cases, I don't want to say it was a ton of them, but there were several cases of people just accidentally ending themselves because they weren't being aware. All they were looking at was what was in front of them, directly in front of them. And you need to be aware of your surroundings, please. If you take nothing else out of today, be aware of your surroundings whenever you go anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, you've talked about this to our students a lot, which is scanning.
Yes.
And scanning what's around you, scanning the room. If you're outside, scanning the park or the road or whatever it is. And we've done drills with this before where someone's doing mitt work, right? They're doing combos on the bag, and then someone's behind the bag holder holding up a number with their fingers, and they have to tell the bag holder what the number is, right? And it's just practicing that ability to be able to be focused on something, but also being aware of what's around you.
Yeah, for sure.
Too.
Scanning is important. I'd say for sure that's the second step of awareness. So first one is just situational awareness, and then scanning I like to think of as the part two, where situational awareness is the beginner course and scanning is the intermediate. But an easy way to practice scanning is wherever you are, you can look at license plates and you read it off in your head and see if you can try to remember it for the next couple minutes. That's a good practice.
I've never thought of that.
I like to
before.
do that one every once in a while. I'll just try to, there's the license plate, keep it in my mind for a minute, and then let it go into the stratosphere. I'll never need to see that again, probably.
It's especially cool when you see the people with like the license plates that mean something.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Those are easily memorable. But if you can learn to read whether the license plate has some meaning to it or not, if I can learn to look at it really quickly and get it down, maybe someone hits my car and they start driving off, and I can look at their car and go, ooh, this. Now you're screwed, buddy. I got you. Or not to make it any worse than it needs to be, but maybe a car is involved in some sort of crime and they're trying to drive away, and you go, okay, I'll keep this in mind so that I can bring this, to the police. Same idea. Another way of scanning is scan people. You look at people, you see, okay, this person, they're wearing a green shirt, blue pants. Okay, so now if that person were to suddenly try to punch me in the face and then run away, when the cops say, what did he look like? Well, he had a green shirt and blue pants, right? And then I can, if I practice it enough where it starts to become second nature, then I can use it to my advantage. Once again, that's part 2, right?
Yeah.
Get the situational awareness first. That one's more important, I'd say.
This is going back a little bit in the conversation where you're talking about make yourself not look like a victim and standing up confidently. Something that they literally told us at the seminar was bad guys pick easy targets, right?
Yeah.
So they're not going to go for someone who they think has any chance at all of fighting back at you, right? So make yourself look like someone who is going to be a difficult target.
For sure.
And an example that they gave us is if you're at the ATM at 8:30 at night and you get that uneasy feeling, there it is, listen to that feeling, and you notice, oh, there's someone behind me in dark clothing with a hood on, and they're hiding their face, and, oh, logic would tell me that this feels unsafe, right? And if you're wrong about this person and you're wrong about them, then you're wrong. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
But if you're right, like I said before, if you're right, then you're going to be glad that you're right.
You're glad
so
you're right.
Then what they say is, okay, make yourself look like a difficult target. And what the person leading the seminar did is she literally pretended to be like super mad. She's like, oh man, like he took the money out of the account again. Like I can't believe they do that. I'm going to kill him when I get home. Obviously not being serious, but she was just pretending to be like she was crazy.
Yeah.
So that an attacker who saw her would be like, oh, that person's crazy. I'm not going to attack that person, right? And again, what they said, like, if you're wrong, then what did you do? You made someone think that you're weird.
Yeah, you're
right?
a weirdo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if that's too much for you, which I still think you should consider, but you could also just look them in the eyes and say, hey, how are you? And now they know, ooh, they looked at me. Oh, no. Now they know what my face looks like. And once again, right, because from a criminal perspective, they're always judging the cost and the benefit. The benefit is they're going to pull out $500. I'm going to hold them at, knife point and take those $500 or whatever. The risk is, okay, they didn't see my face, low risk. They looked at me, they seem confident in themselves, high risk. And as a general rule, I'm not going to say always, but as a general rule, no criminal is going to try to victimize you if they don't think they can take you. As in, they're not going to try to knock you down and beat you up if you're twice their size, most likely. Or they're likely not going to hold you at gunpoint really close if they somehow found out you had a 6th degree black belt and could easily take them even if they had a gun. They're much, much less likely to, right? Because once again, that's a high risk, low reward. So make yourself a high risk, right? And then once again, backing up what we were saying about standing confidently, another wonderful byproduct of standing up confidently is now your head is able to turn a lot more easily, making you so much more situationally aware. Boom, look at that. You just killed 2 stones with 1 bird. Because when I'm hunched over, neck mobility becomes limited, but when I stand up straight, I'm able to turn the way my body's supposed to, and I can see everything going on around me. So I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but it's important to remember, make yourself the biggest threat possible. Make yourself the biggest threat so that the people who want to victimize you look at you and go, no, that's not going to happen.
Be a safe, dangerous person.
Be a safe, oh, that's amazing. Be a safe, dangerous person. Yeah. That's going on our quote wall sometime. Be a safe, dangerous person.
Anyway, I want to move on to the next part of making yourself a non-target, which is a weird way to say that, but I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah, there you go. Be a non-target.
Yes. In other scenarios, it doesn't always work the same way. Sometimes the attacker picks you, and sometimes you cross paths with this attacker and they decide that they're going to become an attacker. So what do I mean by that? Maybe you're driving down the road, you accidentally cut this person off and you didn't notice, it was just a normal day, you accidentally cut this person off, it was whatever, and then you pull up into the parking lot, you notice they followed you there, they get super mad, they get out of their car, they start, yelling at you, stuff like that. It seems like this person might do something violent. What do we do here? This is where we, as martial artists, use de-escalation. And as martial artists, we practice de-escalation, and this is something that non-martial artists should know too. First things first, in these types of situations, you need to set your ego aside.
Yes.
Like, even if you know you're not wrong, and you know the person who's mad at you is 100% in the wrong, it's not worth it to try to be right. If you trying to force your way to be right means that this person's going to do something violent, then it's not worth it to try to be right.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what they told us at the seminar. And sometimes it's better just to apologize, even if it wasn't your fault.
Yes.
And especially if it was your fault.
The power of the apology is so underrated, too. You can take some of the most angry, upset people and pacify them with an apology, followed by some kind words, too. And I know this is a fact. Not, I guess, that level, but every day we deal with people, we deal with parents, and not every day are the parents happy. But if you have an unhappy parent and you try to tell them why you're right, that unhappy parent is only going to get more unhappy. So even if it's not your fault, I'll tell them, I'm sorry that you feel this way. I'm sorry that this happened. Let's work this out together. Let's find a way to do this because we're working together. I'm on your side. And that tells them, okay, this is not my enemy. This is my ally. Yep. They're trying to help me, and de-escalated, right? Just deflated that situation. When you try to prove yourself right, that's when things are going to start going against your favor.
Yeah.
Right? Once again, nobody wins in war. So don't start it.
Exactly. And what we're not saying is never stand up for yourself, never, try to be right. That's not what we're saying. Actually, what we're saying is the opposite. Like, we're saying you should stand up for yourself, but do it in a smart way.
Yes.
Don't do it in a way that's going to cost you going to the hospital.
Yeah. And especially because, this is an ego thing. This person I'm probably never going to see again. So if they won the argument, really, how much does it matter? Okay, I walked away with a deflated ego because the guy in the parking lot cut me off, and I knew it was his fault, but I said, sorry. Oh, that hurt me so much, and I'll never see him again. Wow. Your ego is just so destroyed, right? No, you'll be fine. You'll get right back on it. Back to your egotistical self. Never mind. But seriously, though, the amount of right we want to be is dangerous sometimes, right? Don't want to be so right that it endangers yourself. There is a level of right that is dangerous. I want to be right so badly that I am willing to risk anything to be right. That is a level of dangerous that will lead to violence.
And as martial artists, we joke sometimes like, oh, we just love punching things and love punching each other in the face.
I do love punching.
We do love punching things, but we love punching things because it helps us train to save ourselves, right? Because in the end, we train people because we don't like violence.
Yeah. Just to be clear, I love punching people I don't know less.
Yeah.
That's not as fun. Yeah. But the people I do know, they're totally fun to punch. Like Adam, man, he's got a great he's got such a punchable face.
Yeah.
He probably thinks the same thing. We train people to be dangerous so that they don't have to be dangerous. Because when you are confident in yourself, you're much less egotistical. When you have true confidence in yourself, I think that this is the case. I could definitely be wrong. There are probably psychologists who will disagree with me on this one, but I'm willing to say, in all of my estimations and watching hundreds upon hundreds of people be confident or be underconfident, it is always the people who are loudmouthed and arrogant and egotistical who are underconfident. Almost always. I've seen
ego is a result of insecurity.
Yeah, as a result of insecurity. So be secure in yourself. If this is a person you're never going to see again, what do you have to prove? Really, what do you have to prove? You're proving to yourself is what you're doing in that situation. You're proving to yourself, yeah, I can take this guy. I'm gonna mouth him off because I could take him. Really, what are you getting out of this?
Yeah. It's sort of like a sticks and stones sort of thing. If they're like, oh, what do you like? You don't want to fight me sort of thing. It's like, yeah, I don't want to fight you.
Yeah, I don't want to fight you.
Yeah.
Oh, you must be a chicken. Yeah, well, you can call me whatever you want, man. I'll go home and beat up bags for 5 hours, and you call me a chicken. Go ahead, right? And if you're really confident in yourself, what does it matter what they think?
Okay, the next part I want to move to here is going to be a little bit harder to describe over a podcast format because there's only words. But there are two parts of de-escalation. One is what you say, the other part is what you do. And I'm just going to go over the what you do part very briefly right now. What they showed us during the seminar was different hand positions that you can use in order to look like you want to de-escalate the situation, right? Because if I have my hands up in fists right next to my face, that tells the person that, all right, let's go, let's fight.
Yeah, that's an aggression.
That sends a psychological signal that I want to fight. So let's do things that are not that. The first one was just having your hands on your hips, right? You have your hands on your hips. That's a normal thing that people do, and you just try to talk down the situation while your hands are on their hips, all right? The other one was, they called it like a thinker position, something like that. If you could imagine like how people might put their hands on their chin.
Stroke your beard.
Yeah, kind of stroke. How someone might stroke their beard with their like pointer finger and thumb. And then they bring their other arm across their body and have their hand grabbing their other elbow. Which, like I said, hard to describe over a podcast. Yeah. And then the other one was having your hands open and in front of you. Yeah. Right? That's very much de-escalation. If I start stepping back and I have my hands open, my fingers out, that kind of tells someone, whoa, 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 I don't want to fight. Yeah. Don't come closer, back away, that sort of thing. It's very, I almost said calming, but I don't know if that's the
I think
word
that's a fair phrase. You know, I think off of the hands up one, if you have your hands up high, it's a pacifying, I suppose neutral would be a better way to put it. But when I lower them, I show them that I don't need to protect myself per se. And if I can show them that I'm not threatened by them, then, and not in the I'm not threatened by you, but I show that I'm calm and I'm not trying to start anything, your chances of de-escalating are going to be much higher. And this is on the saying things part, but whatever you do, just don't match their tone. Don't match their tone. Take their tone and go 2 tones lower or 2 tones calmer. Because if they're yelling at you and you yell back, even if it's, hey, I didn't mean it, you're matching their tone. They're only going to take that tone and go a step higher. So instead, what I do is, and this is, I'd say, a strategy for whether you have a guy ticked off at you because you cut him off in traffic, or you have, someone who's just saying they didn't really like what you said about their brother the other day. I don't know, right? From as deadly, potentially dangerous to as menial as possible. I would still take it and drop it 2 levels of aggression, where they come up to you and maybe they meet you with passive aggression and you meet them with blinding friendliness. Maybe they meet you with hard aggression and you meet them with kindness. You meet them with gentleness, right? And it's hard to be angry at someone who's being gentle if they're doing it in a, how do I say this? If they're doing it in a sincere way. Because you can obviously do it in an insincere way where you're condescending to them. I'm not saying do that. I'm saying if you go at them from a gentle approach, they're much less likely to raise the aggression because there's no one raising it with you, right? It's almost like it takes 2 to dance and you're not dancing. Your tone is low and they're much less likely to. That was something Rick Lavoie was saying. Yeah. If I match their tone, I've lost because they're only going to raise it. And they are the aggressor, so they're willing to raise it as far as it is going to go. I'm going to say, no, I'm not playing your game. I'm going to keep my tone low. I'm going to keep my tone calm. And I'm going to try to talk my way out of this one. The art of the sweet talk is so undervalued, but it is so effective.
That's why they say kill them with kindness.
Kill them with kindness. Right?
Yeah. And I think that honestly covers the next part, which is the things we say. Right? I can't tell you specific things to say because every situation is different. And that's what they said a lot during the seminar is we can't tell you exactly what to do or say because every situation is different. What we can do is give you guidelines. Here are some basic principles that you should follow. And we've covered a good amount of them today. And we'll go into the others in the rest of this podcast here. I can tell you things to not say. Yeah. Here are things not to say.
Let's rattle off a list.
1, saying anything along the lines of
calm down.
Yeah.
Hey, calm down.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
And
that's definitely going to work.
Yeah. And especially if you say that
hey, stop being angry.
Yeah. Yeah. If you say that and raise your voice and you're starting to make a fist, it's like, wait, you're telling them to calm down and you're not calming down. Hold on.
Shifting the blame is another one, right?
Yeah.
Well, you shouldn't have done this. Well, you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Once again, it might be that way, but swallow your pride. Just accept, all right, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then the last one is swearing at them or cussing them out. Not a good idea. It just escalates the situation.
Yeah, it's only going to make things worse. And, just as a side note, there is a time, I don't want everyone to think that the only rule is when if they are being aggressive, you be soft back. There is a time for you to be...
Absolutely, and we're going to get into that next.
And I guess I'm jumping ahead, but there is a time for you to be firm with your words. And I think that's mostly when there's a threat of physicality. When they maybe shove you or something like that. That's when... I guess the guardrails get taken off, and I'm not going to say, hey, if they're pushing you around, you're not going to say, hey, please stop pushing me. Please stop. Oh, stop pushing me.
I mean, we talk about that.
Please stop hitting me.
Yeah.
Right. No. That's your time to act.
Yeah, we talk about that with gun defenses, right? Once you redirect, control, attack, take away, little gun defense education for you. But once you've taken away that weapon and you have it in your hand, you're using your voice assertively, saying, hey, back away, stay on the ground, whatever it is.
Yeah. Can you please lay on the ground now, sir?
That's not.
I would pay good money to see someone do that because it would be kind of funny, and I'll bet you they'd listen. But not really your go-to choice. That's when you want to use. You're matching. That is, I'd say, 2 levels under the aggression, but you're matching the aggression at that point. You want to act as the scenario dictates. Right? Yeah. And we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, and let's get into it right now. So the attack. Once this has actually become a fight, you've tried to make yourself into someone who's not a target, right, or a difficult target. You've tried to de-escalate. All of that doesn't work. It becomes a fight. What do you do in that situation?
Yeah. Well, before we get to the full attack part, and I know we got tons of good stuff to talk about there. If you don't mind, I want to talk about back to sort of awareness, but if a fight is going to break out, there are some things I should be aware of. For example, exits. If I can go into a room and be aware, this is once again back to preemptive, but if I can tell that something's heating up, that I might have a problem, that's a good time to go, okay, that's my closest exit. If I need to book it, that's where I'm going. Or another part of that, and I know we'll talk about this in a sec, weapons. What weapons can I use to my advantage? What tools can I use to my advantage? What people can I use to my advantage? Things like that. So, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
It's all good. And I think that's an important thing to note because you, just like how you should practice scanning, you should practice that too. Like anytime you enter a building, where are my exits? What are objects I can use, right? What are people who can help me? Those are good things to identify. That's a good thing to practice.
And also other threats too, because maybe bad guy travels with bad guy buddy, right? So just because I neutralize this threat doesn't mean I shouldn't be looking around for threat number 2, because maybe he does have a partner working with him, and that could be the entire difference. So
that's why it's so important to be aware.
So let's talk a little bit. Walk us through the universal flinch theory. I know that was the next part we were going to talk about on attacking, and of course every situation is different, but walk us through what the universal flinch theory is and how we can use it.
Yeah, so pretty much what the universal flinch theory is when a certain stimulus is introduced too quickly, we all have a flinch response. It's a biological thing, right? If I were to go up to Gabe when he was having a conversation with someone else and all of a sudden just throw my hand in front of his face, right? He might pick up his hands in front of his face, right, and just kind of jerk his hands up. That's a flinch. Everyone knows what a flinch is. And what they taught us at the seminar is that is still better than nothing. If someone throws a punch at you and your automatic response is to move away from that punch and to bring your hands up in front of your face, that's still better than nothing. Now, of course, Gabe and I, as trained Kravis, we always think 360 defense, right? Which is just putting your forearm, your bladed forearm, out in front of your face, right, to attack the attack.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing. It's the same defense, and that's why.
That's what's so great about Krav.
Yeah, Krav Maga is meant to take your base instincts, at least the fundamentals of Krav Maga, are meant to take your base instincts and turn them into sufficient defenses. So, for example, like you said, the hands coming up, right? I can easily turn that into 360. I just take my arm, I shove it out a little bit further, I attack the attack as it comes in, and keep my arm at sort of a 90 degree. Boom! I got my defense right there, right? So someone comes up and they give me a choke. They try to choke me with their hands. My reaction is hands come up to mitigate the threat. Well, if I turn my hands into little hooks, pretty much I can pluck the hands off pretty easily and without having to use a whole lot of fine motor skills, which if you haven't been in an adrenalized situation, I can tell you from personal experience, fine motor skills go out the window. When you feel your life is in danger, you are not able to perform high function, fine motor, dexterous movements. You got your gross motors, and that's pretty much it.
And even if you don't get a full 360 defense because you're not a Kravist, you've never done Krav before, you don't even know what Krav is, and you just flinch, right? That's still better than nothing. Yep. That is still putting something in front of my face so that punch doesn't have full power going to my face. What would be bad is if you just had your hands down and you took the punch.
Punch is coming to my face. Right. Yeah, little something's better than a whole lot of nothing, right?
Absolutely.
And I think, and this is, I guess I'm going a little off the rails here, so I apologize, but I think it's good for people to know, and I was actually training this with some of my junior instructors fairly recently, is you can use the flinch to your advantage too. Let's say someone is being a violent aggressor, whether to me or to someone else, I can use that flinch theory to my advantage, right? Maybe you're coming at me and I know you mean me harm. If I take this water bottle right here and I chuck it at your face, your hands are immediately going to come up. Maybe that's my chance to either A, run the opposite direction, or B, book it at you and take you down. So using the flinch theory can be good for you defending yourself and also for you using it as an offensive weapon, right? Something super easy. It doesn't have to be a big thermo flask that you chuck at them. I could take a bottle cap and throw it at you and it'll still elicit a response. Your hands are still probably going to come up, or you're going to blink or whatever. And if it's something, especially coming at your face, we're very conditioned to protect our face at all costs. So hands will come up, eyes might close, things like that. Head might turn away. And so if I can get those things to happen, the moral of the story is you're not thinking about what I'm doing. We talk about this in sparring all the time. If I can make you think you know what I'm thinking, and I'm actually thinking about something completely else, then I win, because I'm going to make you think I'm going to do this when I'm actually doing that. And so the moment you think you know what I'm thinking, but I'm thinking something else, you're screwed. Right? That was totally not complicated.
From there, once you've addressed the immediate threat by bringing up your hands, the next step is closest target, closest weapon.
Yeah.
This is like, if I could highlight this part of the podcast, this is an important part. So after you bring up those hands, closest target, closest weapon, right? What do I mean by closest weapon? It might be your hand. It might be an elbow. It might be a knee. It might be your foot. It might be a chair. It might be a clipboard. It might be a pencil. It could be literally anything. What is the closest weapon, and what is the closest target to that weapon? Maybe the closest target is their jaw, right? If you can, maybe you got your fist, your hand is free, you make it into a fist, and their jaw is right there, and you hammer your fist right through their jaw, right?
Yeah.
Closest target, closest weapon.
Closest target, closest weapon.
And then the next step not necessarily the next step, but something else that you want to keep in mind is a principle of Krav, which is hard parts on soft parts. I want to take very strong, sturdy parts of myself, like an elbow, because it's very bony, it's very dense, and I want to put that on something that's very sensitive. So an elbow onto a jaw.
Yeah.
Right.
Or
An elbow.
the nose, or the teeth with the elbow are not going to feel good, but I'm not going to punch you in the shoulder.
Right. I'm not going to punch you in the chest.
Yeah. Whoop-de-doo.
Doesn't make
You
any
just
sense.
accomplished nothing. Maybe I'll punch you in the groin.
Yeah.
That'll be more effective.
Yeah. Or a kick in the
maybe
groin.
I kick
Because that's
you
a shin.
in the groin with the shin bone. Yeah. And then off of that, and I'll admit this is a little bit more advanced. So I guess for my salty martial artists out there, seasoned martial artists, the other thing you should keep in mind is, I'm pretty much just espousing my notes that I had from a few lessons ago, but you can use weapons anywhere. Anything can be a weapon. So if, like you were saying, Adam, if someone's coming at you and you have a chair, well, there you go. You got a shield now. You can protect yourself like that, right? I like to think of them as you have a shield, or you can use a sword. This person's maybe coming at me with a knife. Well, I don't have a knife to defend myself, but I have this. I'm in the gym and I have this dumbbell here. I'm going to grab it because that's going to give me a decent advantage. If I clonk you with it, you're going to get hit with a whole lot of force, right? Or I'm outside and maybe I'm paying for my gas and I have the pump there. Punch him with the pump, right? Or a freaking stick. In Krav, this is a funny Krav thing, if you didn't know this. A stick in Krav is any blunt object that doesn't have a blade. So a rock is a stick. Yeah, it makes sense. It does. It really does. But if I find an actual stick laying on the ground, I could totally pick that up and use that to my advantage. In the hands of a master, anything is a weapon. You just need to know how to use it properly and how to use it to your advantage. And matching the force, of course. That's something that I should note. If they're coming at me,
Don't bring a gun to a knife fight.
Yes. If they're coming at me with lethal force, then maybe I could, right? Because if it's a knife, it's lethal force.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The analogy only works
for
to a
sure,
certain
for sure.
extent, yeah.
But if they're coming at me with their bare hands, I'm probably not going to.
So maybe it would be better to say, don't bring a gun to a fist fight.
Yeah, sure. There you go. Don't escalate it if possible. Yeah. Now, admittedly, that's not always the case. Just know that the law doesn't always protect you. The law is not going to protect you there. You got to be careful. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that, because I don't want to speak too uneducatedly about that. I'm not an expert at the legal system as far as self-defense.
We are not lawyers.
I know I'm fairly educated on it, but not enough to give lengthy opinions. So I don't want to speak out of turn, but I know that the force that is necessary is the force that should be used, and no more, essentially.
That's the general rule that most martial artists follow. In Krav, I think what they say is use enough force to incapacitate this person from continuing to attack you.
Yeah, the mildest means.
Yeah. Once they've stopped attacking you, that's when you get out of there. Don't become the attacker yourself.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. If you come at me with a metal pole and I take it from you and then I whack you with it, the metal pole, well, I was attacking an unarmed man with a metal pole. That's how it looks. And you're probably going to go to prison. Didn't go your way, did it? So de-escalate the situation, and when it gets escalate it only as far as it needs to go. I think that's a fair way of looking at it.
Anyway, I think this is a good place to wrap up. So that is basic self-defense for you.
Yeah. How long did we go? We went for a decent amount.
Yeah.
It wasn't super long, but
if someone asked me, what is basic self-defense, this is what I would tell them.
Remember, all the sweet stuff we talked about, throwing bottles at people's face. That's great. The best defense is don't be there. No, be there. Be like Mr. Miyagi and
grow a beard.
And grow a beard, make it look good, and then don't be in places where you shouldn't be. Get somewhere safe, follow lock, get to somewhere where other people can help you. I know there's a lot more nuance on this if talking about, say, a mass shooting, right? And I don't want to weight this podcast any more than it needs to be, but for example, I took a course a little while back on, it was a course done by the Brentwood police on mass shooting, I guess, survival, and the procedure there is completely different, right? If someone's going around doing that, what am I looking for? Well, I'm looking for exits if possible. I want to run. If I can't find those, I'm going to hide, I'm going to find somewhere where we can barricade ourselves in, right behind a thick door if possible. And if I have to, I'll fight. And there's so many nuanced topics we could talk about here. But the best defense, first of all, I'm just saying the same thing over again, but the best defense is not be there. And if it does come to you, which it can, it definitely can come to you without you warranting it. Just know that you're stronger than you think and do what you have to get home safe. That's the rule. That's my rule for our Kravis that I talk to. I say, get home safe. That's your rule. Do whatever you need to make sure that happens.
Yeah. I'm not even add anything onto that because I thought that was great.
Oh, thank you.
Anyway, guys, we'll see you in the next episode. Remember, you can listen to the Battle Boys podcast on YouTube and on Spotify. Still working on getting it to other places.
Still being rude about that whole
technology
stuff.
is not being nice to us right now. But we are in the works of getting our next guest on. I'm super excited about that. Hopefully, I'll be able to be there for that one.
Hopefully, man. Hopefully. Yeah. Be sure to give us a like or subscribe on our YouTube channel. Feel free to follow us. You can ask us questions on our YouTube page in the comments. If you guys have any questions you want to ask us, we'd love to answer your questions. We are excited to hear from you on the next time. Thank you guys for joining us.